You are listening to Chai with the CEO, a Random Genius Media original.
So, welcome to another edition of Chai with the CEO. Today, I have a very, very interesting gentleman with me, Mr. Clement Desylva, short formed Clem Day or Clem D. What's it? I don't know. He'll tell us. He is currently the founder and CEO of Aani Feni. He resides in Goa, which is obviously a dream destination for a lot of us. So he's reporting live from Goa, and we're going to have a chat. And we're going to have some chai. So, Clement, chai, let's chai to that. Let's chai to a good conversation. Okay. Be as wild. Nobody's going to hold this against you. So, I firstly want to thank Annabelle for being instrumental, your wife Annabelle, for being instrumental in getting us to speak. She said, "Speak with the boss." Okay, so I now know who's the boss in the family.
The real boss always says, "Speak to the boss."
Speak to the boss. Correct. Yes, I can attest to that as well.
Right.
Okay, so without further ado, Clement, architect, musician, writer, sommelier. Did I miss any avatar of yours?
A musician would be a stretch of imagination, as my wife will tell you. I'm a home musician. I play instruments, but just for myself and to torture other people if you believe them. But no musician. Yes, architect primarily, practicing architect, trained as an architect, formal training as an architect. Writer, yes, always kept writing, right through writing architectural stories, writing human interest stories. Dad primarily to twins, and now sailor. I enjoy my sailing, and I enjoy my rides. Bike rider. Those are the hobby elements. And now, of course, there's Feigny. Aani. Aani means
Aani
one.
Aani.
Aani.
So I was just telling Clement that the branding is extremely subtle. I'm a chai. I have a chai with a CEO T-shirt as well. So we've both come well branded. So
Wonderful.
high five to that.
Wonderful.
Wonderful. So we're in for a good chat. So Clement, very philosophical question, right? Did you aspire to make Feigny when you were in school?
I always, not in school. I loved Feni when I was in school, always will. But as I saw markets develop and started understanding growth and market share and stuff like that, I always thought that Feni had not got its rightful place in the world. It was always very underrated, very cheapened. And this saddened me. And I always thought that somebody will take this to the world, and we should support him in every way that we do. Little did I think, in my wildest dreams, that I would find myself at involved in this movement, at the forefront of this movement, working with all the other Feni greats in Goa, all the companies that have been doing it for years, struggling to get it out there. I find myself amongst them, and I'm honored to be working with them on this.
Awesome. But I just want to rewind the clock a little bit on you per se, because the first time I got to know about you was through this little booklet that was lying at our common friend, the late Milford's cold storage. And it was simply a black book with Bandra buggers written on it. Okay. And I found it extremely exciting and intriguing. And I purchased it for 50 rupees. And I can tell you, hand on heart, I read through it in one sitting. It was a bunch of your blogs, I think, that you had published, which you put together in a compendium. And it was extremely easy to read. There were a few typos, I should say, but it made for really good reading. So, how did the concept of Bandra buggers come about?
So, this was the very early days of blogging. There was something called Blogspot.
Yeah.
And, I was reading the stuff which was available on the net, and I said, oh my God, before somebody puts his writing out there, they should know how to write. And there was so much bad stuff. So it was almost in response to, of course, there was some very good stuff also. But, none of the established writers had even gotten onto blogs and all of that, because this was, if I'm not mistaken, early 2000s, around that time.
Correct.
That time.
Correct.
The internet was still a mystery to most people, and the blogging world was a non-starter at that point in time. They
Correct.
moved to WordPress and other things. And there was, so I started writing a few articles, and what really kept me going and writing more was the response that I got. It's instant feedback, instant gratification. I put an article out, I check into the website a few hours later, and I find, the bunch of comments over there, people responding, like it, don't like it, you got this right, you got this wrong. Largely accolades, which was very good for my ego, but it was such fun writing again. I hadn't written for a spell till then. And having grown up in Bandra, been a Bandra bugger, so to speak, it just kind of flowed out. These are stories waiting to be told. Nobody had done it up to that point in time. Of course, the oral tradition was alive. There are masters of the oral tradition who would recount them at every evening at the Bandra Gym bar, or at Raja Bar, or at every wedding. And when we were young, we used to do this. And in the good old days, this happened and that happened and all of that. But in the written form, they were few and far between. So it kind of filled that gap. And given the diaspora, the Bandra diaspora, there are people from Bandra all over the world. You go to Mississauga, they are there. You go to Melbourne, they are there. You go to New Zealand, they are there. And just dying for a piece of home, stories of home, their story.
Correct.
Spawned the book, so to speak.
Correct.
The black cover, it was my favorite. It's my favorite color, as you can see. Black. Black.
You did a Steve Jobs before Steve Jobs.
Yeah, well, I didn't think of that, but yeah, that's true. No, he was older than me. He must have been there before me.
So being very bashful, but
no, truly. But even I remember in college, I remember being told by one of my professors, does every goddamn project of yours have to have a black cover? It was just black paper with the name on it, nothing else. Nothing else. It had to speak for itself. No graphic, no nothing.
Nice. Is that your design aesthetic? To keep it extremely basic?
Keeping it very basic, the content, I firmly believe that the content has to speak for itself. Of course, I realize when I see good design, I am very appreciative of it. And today, the kind of designs that people are putting out, one of my daughters is a UI UX designer herself, and through both my daughters, I'm exposed to newer, younger designs. Looking at liquor labels intently, the kind of thought process that goes into it, the kind of production, the kind of story that is being told is absolutely tremendous. I mean, Indian design has really, really come of age.
So let's move a little sideways on this discussion itself. Since Clement has decided to wing it, when I asked him, I'll send you the question, or rather told him I'll send you the questions in advance, he said, no, I don't want the questions. Let's just have a chat, which is the true spirit of having a chai conversation. So talking about design, and I'm trying to also wing it, is what is your definition of good design?
So first, the reason I said we should wing it is because then there's an honesty that comes forth. It's not scripted, otherwise you can pre-plan answers. Oh, this is right. This is, unplanned chat. You want the heart of the matter. You want the essence. You want the, the unscripted version.
The unscripted version.
The only way to do it is to actually do an unscripted version. That's all. And so what is design? What is good design? Good design is something that tells you what it's about, cleanly and clearly, no confusion in the mind of the person who's seeing it in any way. It could, unless you're designing a teaser. If you're designing a teaser, it's a different thing. Even a teaser can be well designed or badly designed. There you won't tell the whole story, but you're not like an S-drive leading up to a mansion. It won't unfold fully, but there's a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. But it should be clear, concise in getting its message across. If it's a teaser,
so one example of good design, one example of bad design. I mean, just off the top of your head, something that really impressed you and something was cringe.
Of course, Apple design in everything. What Steve Jobs did for design across the board. It's incredible that he I remember my daughter putting a black band around her computer when the day Steve Jobs died. That's the kind of impact his design had on her. As a person, she didn't know anything. It was just the impact that the design had. He was so impactful as a designer. I mean, you look at a MacBook, you look at an iPhone, you look at anything. I still haven't seen a Apple product that's badly designed. To me, that's pretty much the pinnacle of design. You know, to aspire to the way they design their stores. You know,
True.
No salesman, no
True.
cash counter. I mean, salesman, but no cash counter. You just walk in and a salesman will interact with you and be your experience guide from start to finish. You know, so the whole thing is well thought of. You know, good design followed up by good service, followed up. You know, seen right through to the end. The logo itself, just that little apple with the bite taken out of it, and the little leaf on the top. If you take that leaf out, it fits exactly into the apple. Nobody even knows this, and it doesn't even matter. But just the thought that this little Easter egg is there, you know, in some way it impacts your perception of the design. You would be hard pressed to say how and why it does, but it does. And that's what makes it great.
No, another thing that my 15-year-old informed me, my son, he said that every Apple store is run on only iPhones.
Yeah.
They don't use laptops, they don't use any other, though they have the most advanced
Absolutely
technology, it's all run on iPhones.
It's all run on iPhones. They just pull out the iPhone and they, you know, it's literally putting your money where your mouth is.
Correct.
You know, no shilly-shallying about it. It's, you know, like you go to a restaurant and if the owner eats there every day, you know, off the menu, that's what you need. You're sure you'll get a good meal. The same thing with the Apple stores. Absolutely. And cringe design, though, where shall I start? Government of India, political campaigns,
LIC.
Maharashtra tourism, LIC. I mean, there are so many, you know.
Yeah.
It's so sad because, you know, you're wasting money on print, social media, all of this, and you're putting out this crap design when you can be for, you know. So this is something which I always would tell my clients when we are designing a space. Good design and bad design does not mean good design costs more. In fact, bad design will cost you. You'll spend more money. You go to a place heavy with false ceilings, lights, some fake trees in the corner, something else somewhere else, you know, ornate facade, you know, scalloped edges where pigeons will be nesting and you can't maintain. That's bad design. And it costs you more to make than good design.
Correct.
Good design will save you money. Good design will get your message across. Good design will give you a happier working space. Good design will give you a great experience. Good design makes you happy.
True.
All of that, you know. I mean, I've even designed gravestones. I've designed a Kabutar Khana. I've designed, you know, monuments. The Kabutar Khana was a crazy one, you know, at Kharch station, just outside Kharch station. We were called upon by a group of merchants to design a Kabutar Khana. And we designed this lovely Kabutar Khana. You know the Kabutar Khana, right? They throw.
Yes.
But there's one thing we forgot. Okay, we built these lovely arches with fire brick and everything for the, you know, to just keep the pigeons safe, because there were people who would come and pick up those pigeons and take it home and eat them, you know, these street vegans. So they wanted them under some protection. But what we totally didn't anticipate, the cows that were walking past found those arches perfect to get a good scratch along. So they'd come there, themselves against it. And periodically those arches couldn't withstand the pressure those cows were putting on it and they collapsed. So then we had to do a workaround with grills and all of that.
Got it. The challenges of India, right?
The challenges of India.
Yeah.
Always fun.
Always fun. Okay, moving back a little to our line of conversation. You've shifted bag and baggage to Goa. So,
well, we got locked down.
You shuttle between Bandra and Goa, right?
No. Annabelle's birthday is 23rd of March. 15th of March, we came here 2020 to celebrate her birthday. 20th, they announced lockdown. And what can I say? We're still here.
Wow. So, pros and cons. What are the pros and cons between Goa and Bandra?
Well, both are close to my heart. Both are still home. But the pros of Bandra, of course, is that you have wonderful connectivity. Goa connectivity is an issue. You know, mobile signals are still very, very sketchy. Electricity supply, you know, is up and down all over the place. The condition of roads apparently, you know, of late in Goa has not been the best in the world. It's a very transient population, up and down. Bandra has, our roots are there, the school, the church, the graveyard, all of that, having grown up in Bandra, born in Bandra, the people with equally strong roots in Goa itself. The quality of life in Goa, though, of course, far exceeds the quality of life that you have in Bombay, what Bombay has become today in terms of pollution and road rage and, the supply chain for food, it's so long that the freshness of food which you get is not what it used to be. Communication, meeting up with friends, having meetings. Of course, the ceiling has been a wonderful boon. The ceiling is really going to change the face of the city, the way the whole city interacts, how people interact with each other, how they get their entertainment. Earlier, if you had a show at the NCPA, you would think 10 times before you committed to something downtown at the end of a working day. Today,
Correct.
you won't even think twice. In the blink of an eye, you'll agree to it because it's 20 minutes from Bandra to the NCPA.
Correct.
So the flip side being, of course, you have Namak, the Ambani Center, which has come to Bandra. Literally, the mountain has come to Mamar. Bandra has pretty much become the center of the Bombay universe. Be it restaurants, be it offices, be it living, lifestyle, everything. In some ways, to its detriment, the charm, the charming queen of the suburbs, as we used to call Bandra, has vanished, and it's never going to be there again. That's never going to see the light of day anymore. But it's a different place. It's a different animal, but still very, very interesting. Still very vibrant. Still very alive.
Yes.
All of that is there. St. Andrew's Zonals, the Sunday. There's no sermon like a Jesuit priest sermon in St. Peter's on a Sunday morning. Travel the length and breadth of the country, will be hard pressed to find a better Sunday morning sermon.
Nicely put. Yes, I agree. Nicely put.
So those little heartbeats, those little flutters, are what make Bandra very exciting. And then in Goa, you come into Goa and you have a poiwala, you have a fish guy coming to your door, fresh fish caught from the river, he's selling it. The pluses are different, the minuses are different.
Got it.
At the end of the day, the total pretty much adds up to more or less the same.
Got it.
Yeah.
So you and Annabelle also run a homestay in Deoghar, right? By the Pavana.
Well, in the year 1999, I was building a house for myself for a client in Pavana, a gentleman called Suresh Mendoza who runs Glam Stamp Studio. Shameless plug, guys. If you need any music work, get in touch with Suresh Mendoza, Glam Stamp Studio, Prabha Devi Dadar. Excellent musician, excellent studio, blah blah blah. I was designing this house for him. We went there. Annabelle said, "Let's get out of the city for Diwali. It's so noisy." So I said, "Sure." Suresh's house was almost ready, so we went there. And she said, "This place is gorgeous. You keep talking about Goa, Goa, Goa. Where is your Goa? You haven't even found a plot in Goa." And every time we found a plot, the paperwork was not right, the price was not right, the location was not right. It never ever came together the way it should. And something or the other kept delaying it. So we went ahead and bought this plot of land in Pauna, near Lonavala. Built ourselves a home there in 1999. Enjoyed it to the hilt. I mean, we'd go there and, you're lying down on the ground and looking up at the Milky Way and, mango trees and jam trees and chickpea trees and, Ramfal, Sitafal, Lakshmanfal, all these interesting things. Butterflies, things which we'd seen in Bandra growing up, but our kids, not just our kids, nobody has seen in Bandra for the last 30, 40 years.
Correct.
So to have that experience, lock in with nature again on a semi-permanent basis. It was only weekends that we were there. 2-3 weekends a month we'd be up there. That's what was very exciting. And of course, there was a lake in front of us, so we'd be sailing up and down the lake and windsurfing and kayaking. All the water sports, things that we really didn't have the opportunity to do in the city. Maybe the opportunities were there, but if you wanted to sail, you've got to go from Bandra all the way to Colaba, Royal Bombay Yacht Club, different battles to be fought, commuting and all. Here we walk for, get out of our door, roll down the hill, and boom, we were in the water at the lake.
Correct.
That ease of accessibility made it a lot of fun. So we enjoyed that. And then my girls reached the 10th standard and we were called in by the school and told very sternly that you guys have to stop doing this for 1 year. Your kids have to do well in this exam, and the bright kids, blah, 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 all of that. So stop taking off for weekends. And you all think the weekend starts on Thursday. It doesn't. The weekend starts on Saturday. And you all think the weekend ends on Tuesday. It doesn't. It ends on a Sunday night.
So all four of you got remarks together. All
Ah.
four asked to bring their calendars in.
Absolutely, yeah. So then if a house is not used, houses are built for living. Houses are built to be used and
Correct.
not to be locked up and gone and opened once in a while.
Correct.
So
Correct.
we said if we're not going to be going there, we got to figure out what to do. So we said homestay. At that time, homestays in Maharashtra were few and far between. So it was fantastic. Though the kids didn't come up as often, but I found I went up that year. I went up to Pauna more than I'd ever gone up, because if there was any problem, it had to be fixed instantly. You have paying customers coming in to use this property. It's not fair if you have a fan which is not working. And at that time in Pauna, there was nothing. There was one shop that sold patata vadas, and there was one general store that had something but that was about it. So it was easier to just take stuff up from Bombay, take labor up from Bombay, and just get things done. So
that became your personal project to take care of.
yeah, not really. I mean, I still am only the maintenance guy. Annabelle handles all the marketing and all the guest relations and everything else over there. But it was and still is very enjoyable to be up there and just spend time with nature.
So would you still recommend that somebody who has the kind of money to put away invest in a property or a kind of a timeshare? What would you recommend is a better way to go about it if they want a holiday on a regular basis in like a serene location like Pavna? Because many people, are kind of put off by the onerous responsibility of actually having their own place, and then who's going to maintain it, who's going to take care of it, all of that stuff, right? It becomes pretty onerous. So what would you recommend now that you've been through the entire experience?
Yeah. So it's not for everybody. It's not like one size fits all. So
Correct.
I wouldn't recommend or not recommend it to, because it all depends on your personality. It all depends as to what you want. Okay. How you design your house. Will you make a fancy house which is very heavy on maintenance, and then you find it's so backbreaking that you really can't maintain it because it's in a remote location? Or you design a simple house where you're one with nature and enjoy it. These are the calls you have to make. Of course, if you're in the you're reasonably well to do today, it's not difficult to put in a caretaker or two. But if you're not going to use it, what's the point? You might as well put your money into the stock market and get your returns there cleanly, easily, high liquidity, all of that.
Correct.
If you're going to enjoy the property, if you get joy in planting a mango seed and watching a mango tree grow, if you get joy in watching a caterpillar turn into a butterfly, if you get joy in watching a sunset, I mean, you're a city boy. When was the last time you saw a sunset in the city?
True.
True. So if these things draw you and excite you, if you have something to engage with and you are there, then of course it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
But if it doesn't, if you're not ready to have, the occasional creepy crawly walking past you, a frog in your wash basin, then it's probably not for you.
Not for the faint-hearted. Yes.
No, not really faint-hearted, but adaptable. Let me say adaptable.
Correct.
It's a very pioneer kind of thing. Today, if you have a place outside Lanavla, Karjat, Alibag, all of these places, there are places there fancier than the Taj. So it's not really that. But what's the point of doing it if you're not going to be there and enjoy it? If you're a city person and you need to be at a party with 25 people holding martini glasses in their hands every Saturday evening, it's probably not for you. Unless you build that community wherever you are.
Got it.
People are doing.
Speaking of communities, both of us are work in progress dads, right? I mean, you have twins. I have a 15-year-old and a 10-year-old. So I have this, aspire to create this community called WIP Dad,
Right.
where we so basically the thought behind it is she's delivered, now it's our turn, right? So the what is some of the best advice you could give to a new dad who's just starting out on that journey? Someone who's had a kid recently, or just any dad that you would want to pass on some gems, from.
There's only one. There's only one thing.
Okay.
Time.
Very well said.
Nothing else matters.
Spend time with your kids.
Just give them every minute you can, every second you can. Everything else falls into place. My kids are today 26 years old. I feel so blessed and proud of the fact that they, not all the time, but they occasionally still want to hang with, still hang with Annabelle at 26. And I can see, we were blessed insofar as, that yeah, financially we were okay. We could spend time with them. We could take them up and spend weekends together. We could do long trips together, all of that. But even if you can't, even if it's just spending time on the floor of your living room, playing Aussie Aussie or Tiger Tiger, it doesn't matter. The one thing, the one and only thing which you need to give is time. Everything
Very,
falls into place.
very nice. Probably a little late in this interview, but could you explain to some of my international listeners or viewers what is Feigny?
What is Feigny? Feigny is God's gift to man.
Okay.
What is Feigny? Feigny is a local indigenous alcohol made out of the caju apple. And it can, caju apple grows in different parts of the world, but for it to be called Feigny, it has to be caju apple grown in Goa and distilled in Goa.
Okay.
It's double distilled, fermented caju apple juice, to put it very, very simply.
Okay.
But as I earlier said, it's God's gift to man. It's such an exhilarating, wonderful, happy, joyous, celebratory, lovely alcohol. Just puts you in the zone.
In the zone.
Having conversations. Friendships are formed. All of that. Feigny contributes in no small way to all of this. So you see the relay. You serve Feigny at your party, or you walk into a Goan bar with two people. You walk in by yourself, okay, and you have Feigny, and you're soon talking to the person next to you. The person next to you is talking to you, and then you're friends for life.
Correct. Correct. Unless your wife happens to be there.
I'm sorry.
I said unless your wife happens to be there.
No, the wife happens. That's also cool, dear. Everybody will want to be friends with your wife too.
So, Clement, tell us, how is Feigny made?
Yeah. So you go into the Feigny orchards. You have your caju apple. You never pluck caju apples for Feigny. You only work with fallen apples, because when the fruit is perfectly ready, it drops to the ground. Okay. While you want that fruit, so do the little ants and everybody else, because it's rich with sugars. The antioxidants are the highest at their peak. There are two pickings, morning and evening. So you go out with a bucket, gather your fruit, take your bucket back to the kolmi, the place where the nut is shucked off the fruit, gather all the fruit up, stomp it, crush it, get the juice out, leave that juice to ferment. Nothing is added to it, no bacteria, no yeast, nothing. Whatever's in the fruit, airborne bacteria, that's what makes it ferment. It's fully 100% natural, organic. Once that ferments, when it's fermenting, it talks to you. There's this hissing sound that, a little hiss which you get, you hear this buzzing. Once that's done, you distill that, and you have urak, which is again the teenager. If any is the grand old man, urak is the teenager. You distill urak and you have Feigny. It's as simple as that. Of course, the best thing is always the simplest. But having said that, to achieve perfection in that simplicity is something that takes years of practice. That's why your batikas are, traditionally, and for some reason, I found the women make the best Feigny. This woman will go up to the barn, the pot where you're doing your distillation, just put a hand on the side and, put a few more logs into the fire, or throw a little water to bring the temperature down. Just pure instinct. Yeah.
Very nice. Very nice.
And that's how you make it.
Great. So, I'm actually, I've been in touch with Annabelle regarding doing stuff at Deogad.
Right.
And I don't know why this thought occurred to me, because I was in Goa and I did sample Aani.
Oh, wonderful.
I am a Feni fan. Obviously, it's not as easily available. I have another friend who's also making a different kind of Feni, right? So Carl makes Fentiro, which is Fentiro, yeah.
Fentiro.
Yeah. So that's a different kind of Feni, but I simply thought of an idea, which is the Aani music festival.
Mm-hmm.
at Deogarh, right? Uh, and you could do, pop, Aani rock, Aani country, Aani, and whatever. Take that thought forward,
Right.
and you keep it extremely limited for a certain number of people,
Right.
say 80 people or 70 people or whatever it is, right?
Right.
And I- it's just the thought. I told her that we need to brainstorm further and figure out how to do it. But it would be so cool to come to a location by the lake and listen to some great music, listen to Clement play the flute, and
Ah,
sip on some Feni and crash, crash there itself, uh, look at the stars, and that's my idea of a music festival, right? Why do we need to go to travel continents to go to a Tomorrowland or a Coachella or whatever it is, right? um, Ultimately, we have such beauty in our own country, which we've not seen. I mean, we were lucky to stay in Bangalore and then in Gurgaon, and we've seen different weathers, we've seen different people, we've seen different dialects, and the kids have grown up. I mean, my daughter was born in Gurgaon,
okay.
and she has taken on some of the traits of a chutney, right? I mean,
Ah.
she has this temper, right? So we keep telling her that, listen, you're from the north, right? So, um, but I
That's
mean,
great, man.
I think our country is so beautiful. I mean, and we haven't really explored it, and we're talking about international destinations and stuff like that. So
Right.
this is just a thought, right? Which I hope will materialize. Maybe, I don't know. Anyway, Clement, great talking to you. I told you there's an Easter egg at the end of the show. So I have just one thing I want to play for you. If you lend me or you.
Oh, Clement Desylva, master of flair, plays the flute and styles your hair, builds fine dine spots with low back chairs, while banjo buggers just sit and stare. He left the town, they lost their cool. Now Goa's got the golden fool.
Okay, Clement, thank you very much. I'm going to just give me a sec, yeah? Sorry, we don't have a big enough budget to get an engineer, but thank you very much for your time.
My
And,
pleasure.
and
Been most enjoyable. Thank you.
I'm going to have one Aani ache on you
You
and
can't have just one. You know what it means. Aani ek is one more.
one more. So, my brother-in-law Vinay Gonsalves is a very big fan of yours.
Oh, Vinay is wonderful. Yeah, I'm a big fan of his. Guys, Vinay makes these wonderful rubs for barbecues.
Yes.
Absolutely awesome. Where can we get those, Sheldon?
So you can get those from Vinay Gonsalves at 42 New Kantwadi. I have been trying to get him to let me sell it online,
Right.
but you know Vinay, right? He's a very
Ah,
assuming, very low profile.
please put Vinay's number out there.
I'll
We'll
put
start
his
some
number
right
out
with
there.
Vinay's
I'll put his
number
number
here so
out there.
people can get in touch with him if they want it.
Yes. He
Because
does
it's really
great
a great
rubs.
product.
He does great rubs. My mother-in-law does great mustard paste.
Wonderful.
The entire family is very, very talented.
Right.
And
Right.
I'm going to score some brownie points for saying that. So
You should. You should. It's a win-win situation.
it's a win-win situation. Say hi to Annabelle and the
Will do.
kids.
Thank you. You
Yeah,
say hi to Priya.
yeah, I will.
Okay.
Thanks.
I look forward to
Thank
seeing
you
you.
very much.
Thanks, Sheldon. Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, Clement Desylva, master of flair, plays the flute and styles your hair, builds fine dine spots with low back chairs, while banjo buggers just sit and stare. He left the town, they lost their cool. Now Goa's got the golden fool.